Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and thanks for watching. Well, it's the Auditor General of the state of Pennsylvania. He joins me after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Welcome back. Well, I have Tim DeFoor. He's the Auditor General of the state of Pennsylvania. He's and another Republican won the state treasurer's post, and of course, the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, won re-election. So it was a complicated election in which there was, Democrats won, Republicans won. Republicans picked up more seats in the state legislature, as I talked about. It was a wild affair.
Yeah, for my first time running for statewide office, I definitely got a taste of the unordinary.
Yeah.
So, but it's a pleasure being here. Last year, it's a pleasure coming back. So thank you for having me. Okay,
well, tell the folks out there, what does the Auditor General do? What's your job?
Consider my department the fiscal watchdog or the taxpayer advocate. As far as the funds that the Commonwealth spends for its different programs and different departments, it's my department's responsibility to make sure that they are transparent and accountable for how they spend taxpayer funds.
Right. Well, now I know you don't want to, and properly so, talk about audits that are underway or are likely to come out soon, but you audit just about virtually every kind of spending in the state of Pennsylvania. Do I got that?
That is correct. Wherever taxpayer dollars are being used.
The lottery coming up, correct?
Absolutely, and we plan on releasing a report within the next few weeks. Now, the Department of Revenue and the lottery are some of the audits that we are statutorily required and mandated to do. But with regards to that particular audit, we'll have something coming out within the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Auditor Generals on the program for 24 years or so, and it's interesting that they have an important responsibility, and some of them have gone on to be governors. As senators, we know Senator Bob Casey and his son Bob Casey, now the senator. So it's an office that can lead to other things, but we won't need to go there with you.
I appreciate that.
All right, but look, you've been doing something I think is very, very important, and that is you've been visiting colleges and universities talking about an important subject, financial literacy.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I feel that it's my responsibility is to make this department, make the Commonwealth a better place, to talk about some of the things that the Commonwealth, especially employment with the Commonwealth, particularly my department, some of the things that it has to offer. And one of the problems that the Commonwealth is having, my department and being no different, we have individuals who are actually ready to retire, let's say today. And we need to replace those individuals with individuals coming out of school. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I've been doing, I've been going to a lot of the state schools, talking about opportunities with my department, some of the things that we offer, as far as the work that we provide and some of the benefits that the Commonwealth also provides.
So are you going through what a lot of businesses and governments are going through, and that's a personnel problem with people retiring and difficulty replacing them?
Yeah, we're having some issues with, let's say, people retiring and having them replaced. And that's one of the reasons why I've been going out there. And it's a Commonwealth-wide issue. And by me going out to the universities talking about the department, hopefully some of the students that I speak to will get excited about the department and some of the things that we've been saying, and eventually they'll come work for us.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is not uncommon, because we read and hear on TV this, you can't travel anywhere without seeing help wanted signs.
Right.
Well, I mean, and we're not just talking about, restaurants and taverns and retail. We're talking about manufacturing. We're talking about a whole array of services that get provided in this country.
Exactly, and that's why I felt it was important for me, being the Auditor General, to be one of the individuals going out there.
Yeah.
Right now, there seems to be a shortage of workers, and I don't know why, but I took it upon myself, and my department, my staff as well, to go out and to actively recruit some of these young students.
We're going to run to a break. I want to talk about what you're doing to improve service, but I also don't want to leave this topic because you also talk to students about being smart with money. We can't dismiss that, and we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Well, I'm chatting with the Pennsylvania Auditor General, Tim DeFoor. We're talking about a whole array of subjects, and he's been visiting colleges and universities in the state, explaining what his department does. But he also talks about being smart with money. I like that, smart with money. So what do you tell the students?
So one of the things that I realized, in addition to being an elected official, I also need to be a public servant. And one of the ways that I do that is by speaking to not only college students, but other individuals about financial literacy. And it's important to me that from kids kindergarten through 12th grade, that they be taught financial literacy in school. All the other states surrounding Pennsylvania do it. Pennsylvania does not do it. And in my opinion, you teach financial literacy. By the time these kids graduate, they're going to make smarter decisions with regards to finances, and college students as well. They're going to make smarter decisions once they graduate. And some of these students also have student loans, and they may not understand the repayment process with regards to those student loans. So I've been advocating financial literacy.
Sure. And the credit unions that come on the program also talk about that. So you're not alone in urging the significance of financial literacy.
Exactly. And one of the things that I'm doing, and we'll be having a press conference about this a little later within the next week or two, is we're partnering with Harrisburg University to have a financial literacy program. To make everybody aware of financial literacy and what it means that financial literacy be taught, in particular from kindergarten through 12th.
All right, the other subject I want to talk to you about is improving the service initiative in your department. Were there weaknesses in that area and you're trying to step in and improve them?
Well, here's
first of all, what is it?
Well, here's what I felt I needed to do. If my responsibility was to go audit these other departments and audit them on how they're spending taxpayer dollars, it was my responsibility to assure that the department was also doing the best job that it possibly could and being efficient and performing audits and how it was doing its work. So one of the things that I started immediately and that we're currently working on now, we're doing an overall assessment of the Auditor General's department to determine, are we doing the best job that we possibly can? Are we being efficient with regards to what we're doing? Are our bureaus working in silos, or are they all collaborating together to do the same type of work? Are we making the best use of our technology? So I felt it was important to the taxpayer, and I owe it to the taxpayers that we do the self-assessment first.
And it's an internal evaluation.
It is an internal evaluation, that is correct.
Do you have any outside consultants, or are you doing it basically with your staff?
We're doing it within the staff. But one of the things we recently had a peer review. And the peer review was done by entities outside the Auditor General's office, most of them outside the Commonwealth. It was pretty
Right.
much made up of individuals from other state auditor offices where they come in and they review your processes, review your audits to ensure that you are following the standards in which you are to follow. And they either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down whether or not you pass the review. Fortunately for us, we got the thumbs up and we passed the review. So that's the first part of the process.
Okay, well, look, I want to thank you for coming on. All right, coming up, we have the president of the Pennsylvania Medical Society. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are important to us as patients with the president after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Well, joining me is Dr. Michael DellaVecchia. He is the president of the Pennsylvania Medical Society. And Doctor, thanks as always for joining me.
Happy to be here, Terry, as usual.
All right, we go into a doctor's office these days. We run into or get to see as a patient a physician assistant, right? Doctors have physician assistants, and you know, rightfully so. But the fact of the matter is that there was legislation recently signed that changed existing laws regarding physician assistants. What is it? Why is that important, and why does it matter to viewers?
It matters because, as we always talked about when we were here, the primary concern is the care of the patient. We look at the physician assistant as being part of the team to take care of people. Doctors can't be everywhere, every place at every time. But as the one with the most education, the most experience in patient care, we should be the leaders of the team. To facilitate physicians' assistants in being part of that team, we had a few things changed. Once again, it was the paperwork, the long, tedious process of getting to practice. We were able to cut that down a little bit, and we were able to define just the overseeing capacity of the physician to the physician assistants, once again for the care of the patient.
So you supported, you basically supported the changes that were made in the law, is that correct?
We reviewed it with a lot of our physicians, and a lot of them were in favor of the, let's call it the upgrading,
Right.
to get physicians' assistants to practice.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what occurred.
So what other changes? Were there many changes in the law that you folks wanted?
Yeah, well, some of the things we wanted to do is it's hard to learn medicine, even as a doctor, with the thousands of hours of training that we have. A lot of it is people overseeing us, you know, senior residents, senior physicians. And we wanted to oversee the physician's assistants, and we defined that a little better, especially in the initial portion of their care or their career. So they're coming out and seeing patients, and once again, when you start something like that, even as a doctor, you need that little overseeing more than you've had in the rest of your career. So that's what we tried to do with the physician assistants.
When I go to a physician, I almost always see a physician assistant, and they implement a lot of what the doctor has ordered, you know, in terms of the patient care. So, yeah, I'm happy to see this legislation. I think it's. I usually don't state my own opinion, but it's a good thing, and if the physicians are happy with it and the physicians' assistants are happy with it, that's even makes it better.
Once again, it's the bottom line, patient care.
Yeah. So your argument is that these are a good thing for patients and physicians.
We look at it as, you know, improving the quality of patient care as part of the team, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So are there any other changes that you're seeking to that relationship, or are you content right now and you're going to see how the new situation works?
We're going to see how it works. You know, we're hoping to put in the effort, as we will do as physicians, to see that this is good for everybody, especially the patient.
Yeah. All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about something that you referred to as prior authorization. What does that mean and why is that important? And we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, I'm chatting with Dr. Michael DellaVecchia. He's the president of the Pennsylvania Society. All right, let's talk a little bit about patients and doctors and that relationship. It's tricky. I mean, you know, in some cases it's probably good and in some cases not so good. So how would you define that relationship? What should it be like?
I think it should be part, we're there to help you. We have some knowledge which we'd like to share with you. But it also should be a very cordial relationship. Yeah. At the Pennsylvania Medical Society, one of the things we think is premier is the doctor-patient relationship. We do not like that interfered with, by different methods, like, we have to spend too much time on a computer and not face-to-face with the patient.
Yeah.
The doctors don't like it, and certainly the patients don't like it.
Well, in some ways, you can do both. I mean, if you're going in to see a physician and the information that the doctor needs, let's say blood tests, he can go through it on the computer while he's talking with you. So there is some of that.
The information, no doubt, is valuable, but when we're face-to-face and we have time together, we should be looking at one another like we're doing now.
Yeah.
I don't want to be talking to you, you're telling me how you're doing, and I'm over here facing something else, typing things in.
And you think you're not paying attention, right?
Yeah, and it's not, it's disrespectful to the patient. Sure. I think the other thing is we don't like any legislation that interferes with the doctor-patient relationship. The decision should be between the doctors and between the patients. Mm-hmm. And legislation should facilitate that and not frustrate it.
All right, first of all, what is prior authorization and why is that important?
Prior authorization is this system where we need somebody else's permission, essentially, to prescribe something to you. And the frustration for the physician is that you're my patient. I may have known you for years, and I know what's best. Mm-hmm. I may have tried other medicines on you, okay? And I know they not work, and I'm prescribing what is in your best interest. Well, the fact that I prescribe it doesn't necessarily mean you can get it. Sometimes we have to go through your insurance company to get their quote-unquote permission to do that. And we find ourselves spending a lot of time, ourselves or our staff, on the phone with someone that doesn't know Terry Madonna and his medical history, doesn't know medicine to the degree that we know. But he has an algorithm where, we'd like you to try these other drugs, and basically they're cheaper. The insurance company has a vested interest in prescribing that. But we know that's not fair. I'll give you the case in point as an ophthalmologist. There's a series of drugs we use to treat glaucoma.
Sure.
Some of them are a little more expensive than others, but they have less complication for the patient. They're more effective. Instead of having someone who's a little older putting a drop in 4 times a day, they can put it in once a day. And we tried all the other drops, and they failed. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. So we'd like to give you this drop, which is a standard drop. It's not anything out of the ordinary most of the time. But then we have to go through the processing of getting permission. Yeah. And they will say, well, try this other drop. And we said, we did try it. Well, it's not on our records. Try this for a while.
The other thing is it's also, it has to be time consuming for a doctor. And maybe that's why you have people in your offices, particularly in the larger physician offices, that deal with that, correct?
That's correct, but it's also time-consuming because occasionally the doctor has to get on the phone.
Oh, sure.
So let's take some figures. If the doctor's working a 60-hour week, which is not unusual, and you tie up 10 hours of that week, if you can cut that down only to 5 hours, the next thing you know, you got a good 10% of doctors readily available for health care. Just by the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
It's like, producing more doctors instantaneously to take care of people, to do a better job, to spend more time with their patients.
Is there a shortage of physicians, in particular some specialties?
In some specialties there may be, in the distribution in certain geographies there may be. Mm-hmm. But there are more and more medical schools, more and more graduating doctors, and the doctors are getting more efficient, let's say. To give you a case in point, when I started in my career, cataract surgery used to be like a 3-day admission. You came in the day before, we got your testing, we looked at you that night, got you ready for surgery the next morning, you had the surgery, followed you after that, saw you the next morning for discharge. That used to be the standard procedure. Now, it's about 2 hours at a surgery center.
And so there's a multitude of changes that have taken place in the last decade or so, which you're obviously talking about in terms of, and so if you've been a physician for some time, as opposed to someone just coming out of medical school, you've got to adjust to those changes, which in some respects, when you're seeing a lot of patients, may not be the easiest thing in the world.
Well, we spend a lot of time outside of the job, as you know, just studying and keeping up with it. Just our continuing medical education credits, which are expensive and time-consuming, we do. But one of the figures I faced when I graduated med school and when somebody in the sciences graduated graduate school is that the rate of change of the science, that it would double every 5 years. So if I came out of med school knowing everything there was to know, 5 years later I'm only half as efficient.
Sure.
So we spend a lot of time in learning the technologies, how to adapt them for the care of the patient, and to study, keep up on the new.
Yeah, what I read about is that in many cases, if you live in the cities and the suburbs, you have multitude of physicians available. If you live in rural areas, and you know Pennsylvania has an enormous geography, which I call rural and small town, there is some, the travel is extensive and locating places to get the prescriptions filled. That has to be a complex problem.
Very complex, and some of the technologies are invading that, fortunately.
Yeah.
So you have telepresence, televisits, you have different schedulings where a group of people can go in with different specialties, out of the same office as necessary and take care of that population.
Yeah, one other topic, and we have about a minute left, is malpractice. Where does all that stand?
Malpractice has always been a problem, especially in Pennsylvania. We have very high malpractice premiums. And of course, that's an expense that the doctor has to undergo. I know of physicians in certain specialties that are spending 6 digits on malpractice.
Wow.
Okay, and we'd hope to take home that much money. But once again, that's distributed back to the patient. And one of the things that's unfortunately happening in medicine is that the reimbursements is going down, but the cost of doing medicine is going up, and they're going to intersect.
Thanks for coming on. Great information. We'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.